you have been struggling with sleep, it is completely normal to want to try and find the perfect bedtime routine. And as somebody who has personally struggled with chronic insomnia, I'm going to outline a 4-step and simple process that will allow you to reclaim your nights and make it easier to not only fall asleep, but also stay asleep. And if you are new here, welcome. My name is Fiona, and I create tons of educational videos on sleep and specifically insomnia because I personally struggled with sleep for a very long time. And it was a very difficult period of my life because I tried everything to fix my sleep. And no matter who I turned to, whether it was the internet, doctors, therapists, my friends, my family, nobody knew how to help me. And I know exactly what it feels like to be in that place, to be so desperate when it comes to sleep. And I just wouldn't wish that situation on my worst enemy. And now, having recovered and also getting certified as a sleep coach, I feel so grateful to have actually gone through that journey and to now be able to help so many people like you recover from insomnia every single day. Getting into it, and most importantly, I do want to start by saying that if you have tried everything, every single different bedtime routine, different sleep hygiene tactics, I want to say that this video is not that. And if you have tried all of these other things and they haven't worked, this isn't your fault. We live in a world where there is not enough information regarding what insomnia actually is, and that includes doctors. And we are continuously bombarded and told that in order for us to fix our insomnia, we need to address sleep or fix our sleep. However, sleep is an uncontrollable factor. Sleep is something that happens in the absence of effort. So if you've been trying to implement different things and nothing seems to work, that is because none of those things were ever meant to fix your sleep to begin with. Maybe you're, not having coffee in the late afternoon, or maybe you're avoiding different plans in the late evening, or you're not drinking alcohol, or you're not even, looking at your phone or being exposed to blue light. All of these things imply that sleep is controllable, but it isn't. And the more that you actually try these things and you're still laying there awake, the opposite is actually happening. You're actually perpetuating the cycle of being awake. You're making yourself more alert. And that is because when things don't work, this triggers back to your brain that something must be wrong, that the fact that you're not sleeping is a cause for concern, which actually triggers your fight or flight response system. This deploys adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream, and it is a reason why you're probably feeling quite agitated and awake at night. So if you have been trying all of these different things and they're not working, it is not you that is broken. You have simply been fed false information. So jumping into the core of this video, I want you to know that the perfect bedtime routine is about empowering you to reclaim your night and make it whatever you want it to be. It is not about controlling sleep. It is about allowing sleep and truly about gaining the right education to understand how you can break the cycle of insomnia. Getting into it, I'm going to break down this bedtime routine into 4 simple steps. And I'm super excited to share this with you because this is all about doing less, not more. Sleep hygiene really tries to tell us that we need to implement all of these rules and routines in order to make sleep possible. But it forgets to tell us that sleep cannot be controlled. So instead of actually doing more, I'm going to encourage you to do less and to truly start reclaiming your life from the difficulties that exist when sleep is a little bit, or maybe not as we want it to be. Step number 1, we're going to seize the day, which basically means that this first step doesn't start in the evening or anywhere close to bedtime. It actually starts as soon as you wake up in the morning. And that is because if you have been struggling with sleep and fixing your sleep doesn't happen at night. It actually happens when you are awake, which means that instead of now focusing our day or making our day revolve around whether or not we slept, we're going to shift our perspective into focusing on the things that we actually want to do. I can only speak from personal experience and from a lot of the experiences that are shared through my clients, but I know that when you are struggling with sleep, our immediate thought is, I need to sleep in to catch up on sleep. I need to cancel plans in the afternoon to get a nap in. I need to not go out with my friends late into the evening because I need to be in bed early in order to catch up on sleep. And the problem with all of those things is that you're starting to alter your day, and that feedback goes back into your brain, and it actually tells your central nervous system, wow, the fact that I'm not sleeping is a massive problem. This is a threat to me as a person. This is affecting my relationships, my life, and the fact that I'm not sleeping is, yeah, it's concerning, right? So when you start altering your day, the dialogue isn't one of self-kindness, it is actually one of control. And control actually triggers our fight or flight response that basically triggers in our body that again, something's wrong. And instead of actually making sleep more likely to happen, the opposite's actually true, because the pressure on sleep increases. So number one and first step is, I want you to list down, or even write it down on a piece of paper, what your brain wants you to do out of control, out of fear of not sleeping, versus what you would actually do regardless of whether or not you had a good or bad night. And for me personally, I used to sometimes want to skip the gym, not see my friends, not watch a movie in the evening, and all of these things were all with the intention of making sleep happen. But number one rule is, sleep cannot be controlled, meaning that all of these other things that I'm trying to do are completely futile. They're, again, completely useless activities that actually are not helpful. When we instead start focusing on the things that we actually enjoy, meaning I'm still going to go to the gym, I'm going to try my best even though I feel a little bit tired, that is actually having the opposite dialogue with your central nervous system. This dialogue becomes one of, well, I'm going to try my best and still go to the gym and still do the things that I enjoy, because even though I am not sleeping perfectly, I am not in a position of threat. This is not something that is a huge cause for concern, and sleep isn't something that I need to chase. Step number two is scheduled worry time, and it is by far one of my favorite tools when it comes to healing your relationship with sleep. When I personally was struggling with insomnia, I used to do this during my recovery every single day, and I truly would not be here without this technique. Scheduled worry time is time scheduled into your day in which you're going to purposefully allow yourself to worry about anything that your mind is currently concerned about. That means that you're going to schedule 10 to 15 minutes of dedicated attention into your day in which you are going to sit down undisturbed with a pen and a piece of paper, and you're going to write down anything that comes to mind. That means, I am worried about not sleeping tonight. I am worried about what will happen if I do not sleep. What if I fall asleep at the wheel? What if this affects my relationships? How will I carry on like this? How will this affect my health? Etc., etc., etc. You're going to write those thoughts down unfiltered and without trying to change them. The reason why this is important is because we try and distract ourselves from all of the thoughts that are coming into our mind. On a day-to-day basis, if you're dealing with uncomfortable thoughts and emotions, and this may not even be related to sleep, our tendency is to distract ourselves. I'm going to bury myself in work. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to see my friends. And you're not allowing your brain to process all of the things that it is trying to tell you. And when we are struggling with sleep and we are trying to chase sleep, you have already triggered in your mind that the fact that you are not sleeping is a problem. Your central nervous system is spitting out all of these thoughts automatically outside of your control that are trying to warn you of something. And when you do not listen to that fire alarm that is going off in your brain is starting to associate that you are ignoring something that it is worried about. So the important thing with scheduled worry time is we are learning to listen to our thoughts and emotions. And I know this can feel insanely scary and like something bad is going to happen. I promise you that when you start listening to your thoughts and to your emotions, they actually start to subside. And that is because it's like similar to happiness. When happiness comes up or a laugh comes up, you're not overly focused on ignoring them because we have labeled this as a pleasant emotion. It's the same with uncomfortable thoughts and emotions. When we try and avoid them, they actually become louder. So our scheduled worry time is going to be time during our day where we are showing our brain and our body that we are listening to it. And when the thoughts come up and you start to write them down on paper, you actually start to realize that all of the thoughts and the ideas and the predictions that are happening in your brain weren't actually real. And that is because you cannot predict the future. So when we start writing down how we feel onto paper, it starts, one, teaching our brain that not sleeping isn't actually inside of our control, and all of the things that we are worried about aren't inside of our control. And it also helps us come back to the present moment and actually focus on the things that are inside of our control. Step number 3, and this one may feel a little bit uncomfortable to begin with, but highly, highly powerful, and I definitely encourage you to try and stick with it, is a clock cutoff time. This means that you're going to, I guess, at a specific time every single night, choose a time in which you're no longer going to look at the clock. And I know this is difficult if you read on your iPad or if you like to watch a movie, but we're gonna try and stop looking at the clock at a specific time. And that is because if you have been struggling with sleep, we are constantly trying to monitor and control our sleep, meaning that if you are having difficulties falling asleep or staying asleep, the first thing that your body normally wants to do is try and check the clock. But guaranteed that every single time you check the clock, even if you have fallen asleep and slept for 8 hours, or you're still sending a signal back to your brain that sleep needs to fall into this perfect and unrealistic framework. If you haven't, or if you check the clock and you have only, you've been awake for hours and you're frustrated, you're again signaling to your brain that the fact that you're not sleeping is a problem. This makes you more awake. If you, went to sleep and you slept 7 hours instead of 8, and you've woken up and you've checked the clock and it's again only 7, and you feedback that to your brain like, oh, I only slept 7 hours, it's not 8, you are again telling your brain that there is an issue with not sleeping. So when you start removing the clock, this is going to be hugely, hugely empowering because you are no longer monitoring your sleep. You are shifting from control into allowing, and you're also shifting based on how sleep should look like into how you actually feel. Because guaranteed, even if you have been struggling with sleep, you have probably still had very good days despite maybe sleeping 1 to 2 hours. And I know this can make you feel absolutely crazy, which is why it is important for us to focus on how we feel, not on a numerical number, or like, I guess even if you have a sleep watch or a sleep tracker, please remove that from your routine, at least for the time being. But still, focus on how you feel, not on a arbitrary perfect 8 hours. There's no such thing. And step number 4, which happens right after you stop looking at the clock, you're going to genuinely do something you enjoy. This is about reclaiming your bedtime or your time before going to sleep. You're not focusing on making sleep happen. Instead, you're focusing on rest or something else that you enjoy. And that is because sleep is something that comes to you and you do not go to it. When I was personally struggling, and still to this day, my go-to thing to do right before going to sleep is reading a book. I always have my Kindle at my bedside. I stop looking at the clock at a specific time. It's not really a specific time anymore. and then I read my book until I fall asleep or until I start feeling my eyes go heavy. And that is because I don't need to be concerned about making sleep happen. Sleep is something that comes to me. Other possible activities that you can do is listen to a podcast or listen to an audiobook, or you can knit, or you can even do the laundry. These are not activities that you need to do in bed, but they are activities that you genuinely want to do to slowly kind of like wind down. It's this focus where you are truly focusing on you and reclaiming your time, as opposed to doing something that is boring in order to make sleep happen. So many of my clients often say, well, I'm confused about what I'm supposed to do to befriend wakefulness, which is this process of doing something we enjoy to allow sleep to happen. And they truly sometimes think that befriending means that you're doing something boring in order to trick your mind to fall asleep. That doesn't actually work. So when you're trying to trick your mind into falling asleep, you're again implying that if you don't sleep, there's an issue. So it's so much more empowering if you actually do something that you enjoy. And this also may mean that you're watching a movie, and no, blue light is not going to keep you awake. We have all fallen asleep watching movies before, which is evidence that you can fall asleep watching a movie. So if that is also watching a movie, then go ahead, watch a movie. I'm truly just empowering you to reclaim your night and make it your own. And the more you start to implement this 4-step process and start removing all of the other things that you have started to implement in order to make sleep happen, you'll also start to realize that sleep actually happens a lot easier. And that is because you are no longer trying to control it, and you are no longer focused on making sleep be this perfect and controllable thing, which was never controllable to begin with. Anyway, that is all for today's video. And if you feel like you would still like a little bit more information regarding sleep and insomnia and why you may be struggling with staying asleep or falling asleep, I have linked my free 30-minute masterclass right here, right below. And I do encourage you to check that out, because I really start to break down what insomnia actually is and how you can also start breaking the cycle of, again, not sleeping. Alternatively, if you have a specific question or if you want a personalized, approach to something you are struggling with, please go ahead and drop that in the comments below, and I promise to get back to you.